Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gary Neville Podcast at the end of what has been, I guess, the central game of the season so far, and it ended in a win which may be absolutely critical for Manchester City over Arsenal by 2-1. There was a lot to take in, Gary. Arsenal hit the post a couple of times in that second half. There was a crazy goal conceded by Donnarumma. There was a moment of absolute magnificence from Cherki. What's your big picture takeaway?
Bernardo Silva, second half, what a performance that is. Just to grip a game. I think people sometimes become surprised when I talked about Paul Scholes in the last 5-6 years of his Manchester United career, gripping a football match by the scruff of the neck and controlling it and dominating the speed of it. And honestly, what we've just seen there from Bernardo Silva is absolutely above and beyond. And that's my starting point, because I think he's just beat Gyökeres on a header at the back post as well. He's then pressing the highest up the pitch 5 minutes later or 2 minutes later, and he epitomised what Manchester City are. Just that experience, that know-how, but that energy, that professionalism, and I thought he was absolutely sensational in the second half. And he just lifted it a gear, and I thought, in some ways, Arsenal had some good chances. You mentioned the Eze post, you mentioned the Havertz header at the end, which is, what a moment that is. But City just edged it, in the sense of edged it obviously with the victory, but also just edged it in performance levels in the second half. And look, my takeaway for Arsenal today actually is that's the best way they could have lost. Because they've not come here today, and I know the big sort of talk before the match was the bottling, the freezing, the sort of anxiety, the nerves, the pressure. I actually thought they handled the occasion very well, and that's positive. They didn't come here today and not play. They didn't come here today and sort of what would be, I have no idea. I thought they played a good game of football, one of the best performances I've seen here from an away team, to be fair. So for Arsenal, it's as good as it can get, but you're up against a juggernaut. And that juggernaut's Pep Guardiola. And Manchester City have won title after title in this last 7 or 8 years. And they've just stole ahead at the right time, and they've got the momentum. And they will go in front on Wednesday. They'll beat Burnley at Burnley. There's still a way to go, but it's going to be difficult now for Arsenal. But how they psychologically recover from this is really important. I'm sure we'll go through the fixtures shortly. But when City do go level on Wednesday, and we're taking that for granted a little bit, but I think it will happen. Arsenal do then play 2 home games before City play again. And City have got a very tough game away at Everton at a certain point, I think in 2 or 3 weeks. So, look, all's not lost, and it still could come down to goal difference. And Arsenal are good defensively, and they've got to try and get the scoring boots going. But, yeah, Manchester City will walk into that dressing room tonight and be able to smell it.
Yeah. You mentioned, obviously, Pep Guardiola, fairly obviously, and the fact that they've done it before. In fairness, the point's been made quite a lot recently that there are several in the City squad who haven't done it before. Is it the presence of those who have that make the difference? Is it that kind of almost muscle memory of winning in the clutch moments?
I think when you've got Rodri and Bernardo Silva dropping into your back line and getting on the ball and taking the ball and dictating the pace of the play like they did in that second half, particularly Bernardo Silva, but Rodri did it as well. You're essentially just, I used to think of it as being, having Roy Keane in midfield or Peter Schmeichel in goal or Bruce at centre-back. It's almost like it's almost like you're being cuddled and hugged all the time by people who are looking after you. And they're just looking after the ball. They're looking after the sort of rhythm of the game. And I felt Rodri and Bernardo Silva in that second half were absolutely incredible. But it is worth mentioning that there are 4 or 5 of those City players that are going for their first title who are playing exceptionally well right now. Start with the 2 centre-backs. The 2 centre-backs I thought were formidable today, and they've been brilliant this last few weeks. And today I thought Kristanov and Gueye were excellent. Not just excellent in terms of their defensive work, they were excellent in terms of their, when they were on the ball, they just kept getting into really good positions to accept the ball, really good positions wide so that actually Rodri and Bernardo Silva could drop in. They were brave in terms of the way they were passing it through. So start with those 2. The left back is as close to a Rolls Royce of a football player that you'll see at that age as I've ever seen. I mean, Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't have this impression on me when he first broke in. But his accepting of the ball on the half turn, his courage to take the ball and beat players in deep parts of his own sort of defensive third, is then positivity to go forward and stride forward. When he strides forward, it looks like Gareth Bale. He's got that run of just smoothness and real sort of like good running style. And then he gets in the box and he's good in the air. And usually you see someone, he must be 6'2", I don't know, he looks 6'2" from here, and don't know what he is, but to have someone that good on the ball, to have someone who runs like that, and to have someone who's sort of got such maturity, and I wouldn't be sort of so quick to throw a young player into the England squad in a World Cup, and I wouldn't be so quick to say get them, but this lad looks like he's made already for this type of sort of game. He was outstanding today. Then you've got Shirky, who, I mean, that goal is just... We did stay clear of the Messi comparison, didn't we? We just thought, no, you just don't do that because it just puts pressure on him. He's not Messi. But it was the way in which he skipped and just moved his feet and just sort of drifted past people. I mean, it was a beautiful bit of play, so confident. Semenyo, I didn't think was at his actual best today. But so I've mentioned Gay, Kusanov, Nico O'Reilly and Cherky I thought were outstanding. I would ordinarily be mentioning Semenyo in that sort of category, but I don't think I can today of how he's played. But he's been brilliant since he's come in. He's been a real force and obviously lots of goals and assists. So he would usually go into that sort of category as well. And Donnarumma's the other one who's trying to win his first Premier League title, but he's a serial winner elsewhere. And he had a bit of a challenging start to the game, but yeah, the one mistake I would say, just, I mean, look, we'll carry on talking about City and we'll come on to Arsenal sort of shortly, but for City, yeah, it was a couple of incredible performances from senior players, and then lots of good young players around them who are in a good moment and confident. But them two really are like father figures. They're the guardians of quality and standards. And it's a model that works. I mean, just 3 or 4 or 5 players that are in their 30s that you just trust is the word, trust. And what they do, they raise the standard of everybody else.
Do you think there's any interest or value in the observation that City's team is settled? You know, in previous years when they've been winning the title, one of the things we in our trade have always said, it's impossible to second-guess Pep's team. You know, he did something different every week. Yeah. This time, and that the goalkeeper apart was the League Cup final team. Yeah. It's been that team for the month since, essentially. Do you take anything from that settled nature? You know what the 11 is, and they all understand they're part of it and they're doing their jobs. Yeah, and I think if City can stay, I mean, Roger went off with a look like a groin at the end. Yeah. That would be a problem, by the way. They'd lose a lot because Nico, I think, wouldn't be anywhere near the same level as Rodri. So if that is a 2 or 3 week injury, that might give Arsenal a little bit of something to take away from today, other than the fact that they played quite well themselves in a good game. Sorry, I forgot your question, Pete. Settled team. Settled team.
Yeah. Sorry, but you're right. That 4-2-4 when they're defending, the 4 standing up there almost like ominously looking at the defence and give it away and we'll be on to you. We don't mention Haaland anymore. We just take him for granted, don't we? I mean, he was like a battering ram today and he scored a great goal. I think, there's no way that team will change. But obviously, Rodri looked like he picked up a groin, so that might be a point where they have to change. But I don't think he'll change the team at all. He's no need to now, Pep Guardiola. He hasn't got the Champions League. He hasn't got so many games. These players are used to playing them anyway. So I think what he's got now is to try and keep a consistent team as possible. He's got Savino and Foden that he can bring off the bench. He's got others as well. Just Rodri, there's the one question you would ask. But you're right, he has got a very settled 11. That I think that he would think will go and win them the league and go and win them the FA Cup.
Arsenal, by contrast, funny enough, shook it up a bit today, partly because they had to, but made the call to play Havertz up top, had Martin Ødegaard back, and obviously Zubimendi and Rice have done a lot of hard running kind of by themselves in those midfield positions, and it freshened up. And the impression I got from sitting next to you for 2 hours was that you enjoyed basically what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, ordinarily when you highlight sort of 2 Manchester City central midfield players in Rodri and Bernardo Silva, I'm just thinking actually in the second half, what Rice and Zubimendi, or Rice and Ødegaard didn't do as much was press onto them. If you remember in Arsenal having quite a bit of joy in that sort of area over there in the first half was when they really pressed high onto Rodri and Bernardo Silva and stopped them playing. In the second half, they started to get on top, obviously, Rodri and Bernardo Silva, and Rice and Zubimendi couldn't get up the pitch as much, and that's just a legs thing, I think, because City just wear you down. one thing that couldn't happen here today from an Arsenal perspective is two things. One, they couldn't come here and freeze. They didn't. Secondly, they couldn't come here with a team that was glass half empty. And Mikel Arteta didn't. I think everything he did today was positive and with intent to win the game. So I don't think Arsenal fans can drive back to London tonight or get on the coach or however they get back to London on the train and think to myself, oh, my manager, he could have done that. He should have done this. He had Eze and Madueke out there from the start. He had Ødegaard on with Havertz. I thought Havertz did a good job in the game. I mean, if he'd have scored that late on, it would have been the perfect away performance. They were hampered enormously, Arsenal, today by the fullbacks. And I thought actually they did a good job in Capier and Mosquera. They really stuck to their task. But they're limited on the ball. So if you think about Nunez and Nico O'Reilly for City, or how Timber and Calafiori or others are for Arsenal, you just blocked off. You haven't got that, what would be that subtlety on the ball, or that even ability, that safe, consistent and reliable ability to feed the ball in, good touches and passes and getting it into your front players and into your midfield players. Because they're centre-backs, effectively. They're centre-backs. They're not full-backs. So I thought they stuck to the task really well, the two full-backs for Arsenal. But you lose a lot when you lose Timber. You lose a lot. He's a bit of a powerhouse going forward. He links really well. And I'm not mentioning Saka because every player can get an injury. So Madueke's there, Martinelli's there. You can't sort of whinge about Saka. But I think losing both their full-backs just would have cost them a little bit today in terms of on the ball and being able to get forward. But I thought Arsenal today lost the game because you can lose here. Because you can play well and do okay in the game and lose here. And I'm sure Mikel Arteta will point towards the chances. Eze's one where he hits the post, the Havertz chance at the end. They had really good moments and they've not taken them. And the Havertz chance towards the end is a big moment. The one mistake, and I was going to mention it earlier, on the goal where Manchester City counter-attack, what Arsenal did brilliant in the first half was they all pushed up together when Manchester City had the ball deep with Donnarumma or the centre-backs. And then when they actually sort of countered, they all got back really quickly and sunk in. I don't know what went wrong because it happened quite quickly, but Donnarumma plays a ball for the goal, Peter. I think he throws it, doesn't he? Yeah. And it goes in between, I think, maybe Martinelli and Havertz, on this side. And all of a sudden, there's like acres of space. Why? I'm sure Jamie Carragher will tell us tomorrow night on Monday Night Football, but that shouldn't happen. Something's gone fundamentally wrong when you've basically got a goalkeeper that's playing the ball against Manchester City. So either the back four haven't pushed in and made it all compact high up the pitch with the forward players, or the forward players have gone too high. I would say probably the midfield players and the back players haven't pushed in. Because in the first half, if you remember, Gabriel was pressing on the edge of the 18-yard box at one point. So Arsenal's fatigue maybe and City wearing them out means that they've just probably just not done the full press like they were in the first half in that moment. So half of them have gone and half of them have stayed back, and that's when you get big gaps from front to back. So that was the mistake I think they made on the goal where they counter-attack, and obviously then Haaland gets that goal at the end. So just that was a disappointing one because they really did work that defensively well, where they either went full press or they all came back and defended deep. They got stuck in between half and half. I'm sure Jamie Carragher will look at that for tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about cup half full, cup half empty and all of that sort of stuff. Talk to me about the man management job that Mikel Arteta's got now. Because a month ago there was talk of the quadruple. Now you wouldn't be human as an Arsenal fan or player if you thought, we might end up winning nothing here. And how do you get into the minds of the players? Because equally, they might be European champions and English champions in a month and a half from now. There really is a cup half full, two cups full, or nothing.
I'm absolutely certain Mikel Arteta will be saying to them in there now, I'm proud of you. If you perform to that standard for the next 7 games, you'll be in a European Cup final. And you've got a great chance of winning the league because you'll score a lot of goals and you'll win a lot of games. If Manchester City drop 1 point, we're in. 2 points, we're in if they draw. So I'm sure he'll be reiterating the message of, that's the level I need you to be at. Now, what Mikel Arteta is going to have to do in this next few weeks is make sure he picks that team. And with that level of intent, I think it's really important now that Arsenal play. I mean, next Saturday night, the game, Arsenal v Newcastle, I'm doing it, you're doing it for NBC, I'm doing it for Sky. It's a huge game. It's a huge game because that really is the game. They cannot afford to drop anything. They have to win next Saturday night. I'm not saying they have to go and win 2 or 3-0, but that'll help with goal difference. And you have to think about that. But they just have to come off that field with 3 points. And that will then, I think, set them up nicely in terms of being able to go. They can still look forward to this run-in. And I think Mikel Arteta will be saying that. He's just doing his interview here now. We can look forward to this run-in. That was a good performance today, and we could have got a point out of that game easily. Play like that and that standard in every game till the end of the season, and we'll win a trophy. I think he'll be saying that.
Before we come on to the rest of the season, just 1 or 2 issues within the game. The Gabriel Haaland head-to-head. What's your reflections now? I saw you talking to Mike Dean before he disappeared.
Yeah, Mike actually, to be fair, said that he thought it was. I think he's discussed it with a few of his colleagues, and I think he said it was a red in the end. Look,
it matters less because Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Gabriel scores late on, City be absolutely furious. What ordinarily happens is, and I got done, I think it was actually with Steve McManaman in the Manchester derby, it was back in 2003, 20 odd years ago. You can put your head against each other, that's fine, you might get a yellow each. The minute you do that, the minute you do this, it's a red. It's just usually a red. I mean, that was the surprise from Anthony Taylor, that he treated them both the same. And I think he puts his head down as well. Now, Haaland does brilliantly well. He doesn't react. He could have gone like this and put his head to his face, and I think he'd have been gone straight away, Gabriel. Off the pitch within a second. I don't want to see players sent off, but he's lucky there, Gabriel, I think. It's not ended up counting for anything, but I think Pep Guardiola would have had a real noise up and whinge, and with some justification, I think, if obviously Gabriel had scored late on or City had conceded a goal, I think he'd been annoyed.
And I just want to ask you too, because I think we're all fascinated by this as fans, as neutrals, whatever. You were squirming when Ryan nearly got caught very early on around the goal kick, and
Donnarumma as well.
You were going off on one, but then that's what I was going to say. Ironically, it actually cost Donnarumma a goal. Just explain, because I know it's a tough one for you, but to a football fan, if you can, flipping the coin, what is the value in what they're doing as passing short? Do you see that? Because there must be a reason they do it.
Yeah, look, the reason they do it is to actually, to be fair, try and play out from the back, and it's a passing combination that you're working from your 6-yard box, and a lot of teams do it. But there are a couple of things for Arsenal in the first part of this game. They have a habit sometimes of keeping the ball too deep and too far back and leaving the goalkeeper on the ball too much because he's good on the ball. And they rely upon him too much, so they pass it back to him quite a bit. That couldn't happen today because they did that in the second half of the Carabao Cup final. It wasn't with David Raya, it was obviously with Kepa, and it cost them. It's because what it does, if you pass back the way, the other team are then just pressing onto you. It's like the tide comes in on you a little bit. And the second reason for not doing it in the first part of the match, Peter, in particular, was the fact that you just want to settle down in the game. You don't want your first touches to be in your own 6-yard box. You want them to be up the pitch. You want them just... And actually, Arsenal, I think, recovered really well from that moment. Donnarumma's not good on the ball. He's clumsy on it. I mean, he can be good, but he's erratic. He can be inconsistent. But honestly, I'm seeing it less and less. I'm seeing it less than I was last year, Peter, and the year before. But honestly, I've got no doubts that the risks far outweigh the reward of this type of football. And I'm not talking about basically sort of safe, knock it long football. But what are the benefits of playing out from your 6-yard box? Of course, if a team drops off to the halfway line or a sort of mid-press, as they would call it, of course, play out. Just play out of your own box. Do what you want. I'd drop back into my box and get the ball if I could back in the day and go as deep as possible and, get wide and get on it and play out. If a team dropped off us, no problem. But if they're high pressing you, and then if you transfer it into an amazingly massive, monstrous game away from home for a title in the first 5 minutes, you're not even thinking about that. You're just thinking, no, let's make sure we settle into the game well. Play it forward, test their defenders, make them run back to their own goal, try and get some set pieces, try and make them defend. Play in their half. That still is a thing. I don't care. The game changes, of course it changes, but you have to play as much as you possibly can in the attacking half of the opponent's area. Pitch, sorry. Simple as that. You have to. That is football. That's how you win matches. And City do that so much. They don't pass it back anywhere near as much as Arsenal. Arsenal do pass it back. I didn't think Arsenal passed it back too badly today. Maybe a little bit in the second half. They got a little bit safe. I thought in the first 20-25 minutes they had some real intent of running forward and playing forward and pressing. But you can't do that against City for 90 minutes because your legs just go a little bit and you just become a little bit fatigued.
Okay, well, we're into the last month. We haven't got clever graphics here, so I'm just going to have to talk to you about the fixtures.
Yeah.
Arsenal have left. Home to Newcastle, home to Fulham, at West Ham, home to Burnley, at Crystal Palace.
It couldn't be better. I mean, West Ham away is tough because of where West Ham are right now. That could not be, if you just said, let's pick 5 fixtures, you might change one. But honestly, you could not pick a better 5 games than that, really. You know, you'd say you'd snap your hand off all day if you got offered those 5 as your last 5 games of the season going for a title. So that they've got no complaints, no excuses. You know, the idea that they'd be playing Manchester United away, Liverpool at Anfield. I'm trying to think of an awkward team at home that you know what I mean. Just they've got none of that. Yeah, they've got a team that are in the relegation scrap, West Ham, who can be awkward, and you can see that could be a little bit tricky. But go and beat Newcastle and Fulham. They're the key games now to go and get those 6 points on the board, reset things. They're obviously going to have 2 semi-finals in, you know, sort of interspersed between those games, aren't they?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, I thought that's the tricky one. For Arsenal, that's the one. Look, if they drop points against Newcastle and Fulham, you're done. You don't deserve a title. So let's be clear. And that's not being disrespectful to Newcastle and Fulham, but you don't deserve a title if you drop points in those games. Going to West Ham after a second leg of a Champions League semi-final, when you may have been knocked out, you might have got back late, you might have had a grueler, you might have gone to extra time and penalties, it might be sapping. That will be a game. That's a tough game. That's one game that you'd look at and think, oh, that needs a little bit of care and a bit of attention. So that's a game, but that's miles away for them. They've got 4 games before then, 2 in the Champions League and 2 in the Premier League, and they've got to go and do the job in those 4 matches.
Yeah. Incidentally, the 2 teams who have them both still to play, funnily enough, coincidentally, are Burnley and Palace. And depending on how the fixtures are scheduled around the cup final, potentially for City and so on, actually Crystal Palace could end up playing them both in the last week of the season, which would be interesting. So,
and City's games are?
City's games are, well, Burnley away, Everton away, Brentford at home, Bournemouth away, which, by the way, will be Iraola's last home game. So there'll be a little bit of stuff around that. Last day of the season against Aston Villa, and somewhere in there to be decided the home game against Crystal Palace, very possibly within the last week of the season. The Bournemouth game...
Palace here, is it?
The Palace game is here, yes.
They actually got a decent record here, haven't they? Palace. Am I missing?
Yeah, no, they've had a couple of big
wins.
times. Yeah.
Look,
just to say, there could be a cup final in there,
yeah.
Obviously, and the Bournemouth game is on cup final weekend, so that's the one that might...
Yeah, the Bournemouth away game... Villa, if it goes to the last game against Villa here, Arsenal can forget about it. They're done then. They're finished. Something has to happen against Everton away, Bournemouth away. I think they're the games that could be a little bit more tricky for City. But City, you fancy them to win every single match. I mean, can Arsenal outscore City in the last few weeks of the season? That's difficult as well with where City score goals. Haaland, Cherki, Semenyo, Foden, Savinho, Doku, they're all capable, aren't they? But look, Arsenal have got to go and score goals and win games. And do their own job, most importantly. The main thing when you're in this position is be there if the other team slip up. Make sure you're there. Don't not do your own job. So, look, I think both of them have got comfortable-ish run-ins. Let's see. City are definitely favourites now. I mean, that game today, that win today, definitely puts them in that position.
Yeah. Do you want to do any other business? Tottenham.
Tottenham I was watching that last night.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt a little bit like, do you remember Sami Kuffour, the Bayern Munich centre-back?
Yes, I do.
When that
beating the ground
when that goal went in the sort of Champions League final, and that was the first goal. It felt a little bit like that watching that goal go in for Brighton last night, didn't it? Ruter scores, and all of a sudden you saw to the crowd, you saw Xavi Simons, you saw Dancer, and you thought, oh. I mean, that hit deep, didn't it? That hurt them badly. But I thought
Forest have won and West Ham have won.
Yeah,
Forest have won and Leeds have won.
Forest have won and Leeds have won, and West Ham play tomorrow night. The unthinkable is thinking. Yeah, the unthinkable is happening before our eyes, really. It's a desperate situation. I actually went to a James concert straight after the game, so I didn't watch my team play, but have to say that I was watching a concert that I was absolutely loving and enjoying, and then thinking when I saw United's team and saw Mazraoui and Heaven at centre-back, I thought, oh, there's no way that we can keep a clean sheet here. But I thought up front, Bruno, Mbeumo, Cunha and Sesko, I thought, oh, well, we'll score goals. If you said to me 1-0, I'd have said no chance, that's the most unlikely score. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, and I think we'll score more than one. Yeah, that's a brilliant victory for United. I think that puts them into an incredible position now for Champions League football, as does it for Villa today as well. So it's a big win for United last night. Obviously, I've seen the goal and seen a bit of highlights. Villa, incredible victory, and they're going to get into the Champions League now, and that was massive for Liverpool. That last-minute winner. How many last-minute winners have we watched for Liverpool this season? I know they've had a good season, but every time I walk up from the compound into the gantry...
I think you just feel it more acutely, Gary. That's all.
It feels like I see a Liverpool winner on this gantry more than any other team. But that just puts Chelsea in a desperate position.
Of all the issues, actually, the top 5 looks to be the most clear-cut now.
It looks set. I mean, look, Chelsea play Liverpool, I think. They do. Yeah, Chelsea play Liverpool and Manchester United play Liverpool. So you could argue that Liverpool have got a couple of tricky games, but I just think now, is it 7 points they're in front? Yeah. And Chelsea look, to be fair, they look dead on their feet, don't they? They look like they're beaten every time you watch them. They're not in a good vein of form at all. So, yeah, that was a bad weekend for Chelsea, a really bad weekend. After United getting beat by Leeds on Monday, Chelsea must be thinking, like, let's go and win. Now, you think United centre-back and back four, you're thinking, right, we've got a real chance. So to not score a goal is a very, really bad situation. But, yeah, Michael Carrick and Manchester United, I think that was a big response, that, from a really difficult Monday night football against Leeds, when Leeds, I think, outplayed Manchester United. I think it's a really good response. And Tottenham was the big thing last night, wasn't it? I mean, that was just... it's not good for them.
I think that's covered everything. Do you want to have a final word on who's going to win the league, or would you rather duck that question now?
I think Manchester City now. Manchester City are favourites. I wouldn't say clear favourites, because I think they could end up both on the same points. Arsenal could do them on goal difference, but it's doubtful. It's doubtful that Manchester City won't score more goals, and they look like they're solid defensively now. So. Yeah, it'd be a big shock from here if Pep Guardiola didn't win it from this point, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It'd be a big shock.
Because he always does.
Yeah, so we've gone from a point of Arsenal favourites, think they'll win it, 6 points clear, a point today, they're still 6 points clear, to a point whereby now you're in a mindset of, I'd be very surprised if the Premier League title wasn't here on the final day.